Toward the end of 2023, I started up a bunch of new hobbies. I began tracking the movies and shows that I watched, streaming a little, losing weight, branching out and listening to more music, as well as began working a full-time job. The one that you probably care about, as it's directly related to this video right now, is that I started making YouTube videos. So when the end of the year came and it was time to pick a New Year's resolution, mine was simply to keep up with these good habits as much as I can throughout the new year. Or more simply, keep doing what I'm doing. And with 0 days left on the clock for 2024, I'm happy to say that, as far as YouTube goes, I've definitely kept up with it. So let me walk you through everything I learned from being a YouTuber for 1 year. Choosing what kind of content to make was actually the first hurdle to cross. My goal with this channel and keeping up with it was to always be learning new things, especially video editing, so I figured the best way to start was to already have some kind of established footage to work with. On November 27th, 2023, originally unrelated to this goal, my friends and I decided to stream a game we were playing called Lethal Company to capture any of our funny moments that might happen. And in my desire to make watching that stream back a more manageable experience for us, I decided to edit the stream down into stream highlights and post it on YouTube. I posted my first video just a week and a half later on December 8th, 2023. The goals with this channel have always been as follows: learn something new. In this case, obviously video editing, but also specific techniques and technical details. Archival. I always want to archive the memories that I made streaming with friends, so I could always look back on some of these videos as more of a time capsule of sorts. Entertainment. The videos should obviously be fun to watch, otherwise, what's even the point? Something that's really tough about starting out is establishing your style. It's really something that develops passively over time rather than something that you set out to figure out right at the start. But having a good idea of what you like to watch and what you can make can actually really help. These are the guidelines that I established for myself. I want to make gameplay videos with a focus on minor video editing. This was born out of the fact that I wasn't really a great editor when starting out, but also, I really hate watching a video and you can tell it was made for TikTok brain, with cuts and transitions every 10 seconds and loud music in the background. It is just personal preference, but I cannot stand videos that are edited like that. So I just wanted to keep the editing style minimal, both for my own style and, for archival too. Videos should be no longer than 50 minutes. I've always enjoyed watching longer form gaming videos, and this also would grant me some more leeway to keep some more content in. I did end up breaking this rule just 3 times, all for special occasion videos. One video should ideally correspond to one livestream. I kind of dropped this as I went on, but in the interest of archival, I wanted to have each video feel like a complete package. Some streams did get split into multiple videos, either where we played different games on that stream, played with different groups of friends on the same stream, or the content of part of that stream didn't fit in with the goals of the other part. These made for easy determinations on what could easily become different videos, and I didn't want to arbitrarily cut a stream in half. I wanted each video to feel tonally complete. This year, I produced 60 different YouTube videos, from December 8th, 2023 to the day that this gets posted, December 31st, 2024. December to December. This marks the end of the first year of BlueBubbbee. Of these 60 videos, I made 3 partially scripted gameplay videos, 3 fully scripted video essay type videos, 2 compilation videos, and 52 pure gameplay videos. As for the breakdown of the games themselves, I made 25 Risk of Rain 2 videos, 23 Lethal Company videos, 4 Rivals of Aether 2 videos, 2 Fortnite videos, 2 meta videos about the channel itself, including this one, and 4 miscellaneous one-off videos. For the bulk of my content, I didn't really think much about my upload schedule, just editing whatever I felt like editing at the time. Occasionally, I did plan out specific uploads around community events or game releases. My Fortnite videos marked the end of Chapter 5 Season 1, my Rivals of Aether 2 gameplay videos coincided with the game's closed beta, and my first Seekers of the Storm videos posted the week of the DLC launch. This strategy was very good at boosting views, but it did require some quick edits to get them done fast enough. In February, I began uploading consistently. Before then, I was just posting videos whenever I finished them, but when it came time to edit down a 5-hour-long Lethal Company stream, I had to split it into 2 parts, one when I finished and one scheduled the week after. The extra time let me finish another video, which I scheduled another week out, and this solidified my workflow for the year. I also put a TV-style recap intro on that second video to link them together, which I still really enjoy. I ended up doing this a few more times, and these were always really fun to make. In March, I uploaded my first Risk of Rain videos. I uploaded 2 on the same day based on a tactic of setting up a new YouTube channel where you upload multiple videos at once to ensure that your audience has more than one video to watch at a time. This ended up being a pretty big game changer for me, and that first Risk of Rain video was the first one to really take off. By the time these were posted, we had already recorded up through what would become the 14th Risk of Rain video. This allowed me to pump out Risk of Rain content almost every week from then on out, which was really fun and carried the channel through till June. By the time Risk of Rain episode 15 was recorded, I actually hadn't played the game in 2 months, despite there only being a week between those uploads. This is where I see kind of a shift in my content since the editing had much improved, but I was still working with mostly older recorded content. During the summer, I began working ahead on some videos for my backlog, keeping some unpublished as backups in case I ever missed the goal of 1 video a week. This saved my schedule a few times, like when I posted the first Lethal Company with 100 mods video when I was away on vacation, despite that video having been recorded back in January. This strategy of keeping backup videos was fantastic, and I can't recommend it enough. In the fall, I was burning out on Risk of Rain because of the lackluster DLC launch, so I pivoted back to focusing on Lethal Company. September was focused on cleaning up the last few streams I had left to make edits for, and I worked hard on editing ahead for the month of October. I actually had most of the videos for October done in advance, which gave me the confidence in my ability to schedule edits out in advance when I'd need them. This was the first month that I planned out completely ahead, theming all of the uploads around more spooky games, aside from my Rivals of Aether 2 video, which was made to coincide with the week of the game's launch. I wanted to do something special to end off the year, so November was all about setting that up for myself. I finished up the last 3 videos I had on hand, and then ended with an hour-long special finale for both Risk of Rain and Lethal Company. December, then, was intended for doing any last things I wanted to do with the channel, including a roulette gaming challenge, some recaps, and then this end-of-year reflection, which I had known I wanted to do since around mid-October. As far as the bulk of my content went this year, Risk of Rain and Lethal Company were the 2 main series I ran on this channel. Each had a specific brand, or visual style, including specific fonts, outro songs, and thumbnail styles. They each also ended with a special hour-long finale episode and a unique year-end compilation, with Lethal Company getting an alphabetized highlight reel, and Risk of Rain getting nothing. About that. Not everything makes it into the final cut of any project. Throughout the year, there were a number of videos that I had planned that I either didn't get around to or decided against doing. This isn't something a lot of YouTubers often talk about, but in the interest of transparency, I do want to go through them. Let's talk about that Risk of Rain 2 compilation finale. The original plan for my year-end videos included a unique end-of-year compilation for both Lethal Company and Risk of Rain. For Risk of Rain, I plan to do a full item tier list, using our clips from the videos to back up the rankings and to keep it entertaining. This is something I was pretty excited about, and I actually had people on board to do it to some degree. The reason this didn't happen is because Gearbox actually decided to patch the game and rework almost all of the DLC items, which would have made the rankings almost immediately outdated. Then, funnily enough, they dropped it literally while I'm writing this script. Maybe next year it can happen in a different format, but we'll see. I ended up throwing together that 101 Rivals of Aether characters video pretty last minute just to fill that slot. At one point in the year, I wanted to make a channel trailer for my channel, using just some clips and music or something. And then I thought about it and I realized, when have I ever watched someone else's channel trailer? The answer to that was a resounding never, so I dropped the idea and reworked that into the best of every video compilation that I did. Throughout 2024, I streamed 10 different games and I made videos of 7 of them. Valorant in particular, I'd considered making a video for at multiple different points, but I never really found the right time. I considered it for December, once again to fill that Risk of Rain slot, but the editing effort would have been too high by that point. However, I did use those streams to make other videos, and you can see some remnants of my intent to make Valorant content in these 2 still. Over the summer, I streamed and recorded attempts for a Rivals of Aether 2 Iron Man challenge during the July beta weekend, which was really fun, but I never ended up completing the challenge. That's not why I didn't turn it into a video, though. About halfway through the stream, my friends came online to hang out and chat, which was very fun, but we ended up talking about some real life stuff, and then the focus shifted away from what I was originally doing.
But
Did you come see that with us? I thought that was just me, Alex, and Scott.
I was there. Trevor and I came and we sped on the highway and we were like 5 minutes late.
yeah.
I did use that footage as background footage in my roster prediction video, though. There were a few Risk of Rain 2 runs that we streamed that didn't end up making it into videos. One that especially sticks out to me was when Brian and I fought the Alloy Worship unit for 30 real world minutes because our builds were terrible and then we died anyway, which sounds really funny in concept, but it wasn't going to make for good content. There was another run that I did with Chris where the video file ended up being absurdly large because it was an uncompressed video, so that had to go because it was going to kill Premiere. Every Risk of Rain 2 stream did end up getting made into a video, though, in some form, so it's not like any real content with the boys was ever lost. The Ranked Roulette Challenge video I did at the start of December was an idea that I had been toying around with since the early summer of 2024, and I only ever made an attempt to do one of those on stream. I had ideas for other similar videos, both with ranked games and a variant where I tried to see if I could beat 3 out of 5 random roguelike games on my first try. I just ran out of time for that one. Like the Lethal Company with over 100 mods videos that we did, I had ideas to do other ones like this. Some games I thought would be funny to do something along these lines with was Risk of Rain 2, the original Rivals of Aether with the Workshop, and Minecraft. Maybe next year, but I don't have any definitive plans for this as of right now. Now let's get into the nitty gritty of what I've learned about YouTube this year. Let's talk about YouTube Shorts. Everyone I know hates watching them, but the truth is, YouTube Shorts are the #1 ticket to growing your channel. Like them or not, chances are you've probably watched a few today if you're on YouTube regularly. Shorts are the most effective because they are low commitment, high reach content, which makes them perfect for pulling in new viewers. This year, I made 105 shorts, and I should have made so many more. But the truth is, they are unrewarding and boring to make. When making a short, it's important to consider the layout of the interface. Things in this range will be covered by the UI. You can also choose to link a video to your short here, which makes them the prime medium for redirecting new viewers to your content. I like to think of them as more of a teaser for the video itself. YouTube Mobile offers a pretty convenient built-in shorts maker, where you can clip your full-length videos and turn them into shorts. However, it has two fatal flaws. Firstly, it absolutely tanks your video's quality. A 1080p video cannot be made into an HD short this way, and it can make some busier moments look especially ugly when it downscales the resolution. Secondly, if you link it back to the source video, which makes logical sense that you would, YouTube replaces the video's title text with created by @username, which looks so much worse. Nobody is going to want to click on that, and I have no idea why YouTube feels the need to make this change. Instead, I would recommend making shorts in your own editing software with the original footage. It definitely takes extra effort and rendering time, but it will make for a much nicer final product. I did this when I launched my first fully scripted video, repurposing the same voiceovers I used in the video, changing the frame size, and linking it back to that original video. This worked out exceptionally well for me. They looked great, and they brought in consistent traffic to both the channel and the video. Originally, I tried posting one short every day from January to April. Keeping up that pace on one full video a week schedule meant that I would need to generate at least 7 clippable moments from each YouTube video. And sometimes it was really hard to stretch to find those moments. This was the single hardest factor for me in maintaining shorts uploads. Lethal Company, with its short, funny, and explosive moments, lends itself to a community that loves watching shorts. Risk of Rain 2, not so much. The slower gameplay makes it harder to make 7 shorts a week from. In fact, I only ever had one Risk of Rain short get more than 500 views, which is not great. Fortnite showed potential with the videos generally doing well, but I didn't really make enough shorts to fully gauge that. Looking back, making shorts consistently would probably have been ideal for channel growth, but the diminishing returns and extra effort made me phase them out of my personal workflow, except for special occasions. Figuring out what software to use for everything can be a really big hassle, so here's what I used. I'm not saying that this is the best software to use or anything like that, but it worked out decently well for me. For streaming and recording, I used OBS, not Streamlabs OBS. They are different, and it's really shitty that they're named the same thing. OBS makes it easy to stream and record once you have that all set up, and it's really nice that it has a built-in remuxer to convert your video files, which you're definitely going to want to use. My stream overlay was made very quickly in Stream Elements. I made it once, and I've only ever had to look back at it for 1 or 2 changes to that layout. It's not something that you think about too much once it's set up, but it's really nice to have stream alerts and chat showing on stream. For editing, I use Adobe Premiere Pro and kind of Adobe After Effects, but After Effects is scary and hard, and I only recently started using it sparingly. I use Premiere because that's what I had a very basic experience with in the past, and truth be told, I don't recommend it. I've heard DaVinci Resolve is good, but I've never used it. If you have no experience, do yourself a favor and start outside of the Creative Cloud. Premiere crashes all the time, and it's really frustrating to work with. But the nice parts are how cleanly additional elements plug and play with it, which I'll get into later. Some other super helpful things to have access to would be the YouTube Creator Studio app on your phone, which gives you access to your channel stats and weekly and monthly breakdowns. YT DLP GUI, a YouTube and Twitch video downloader software where you can get Twitch clips and green screens off of YouTube. It also helps to just have a software for this so you aren't getting a virus from these sketchy ass websites. I'm only advocating that you use software like this legally, of course, and not for piracy. I personally used it to get Twitch clips off of my own channel and my friends' channels with their permission, and some green screens that were marked for fair use. Incompetech.com for getting royalty-free music to use in videos. Everyone uses this and has been using it forever. Freesound.org for royalty-free sound effects like this when necessary. Energy drinks, if you drink them responsibly and don't have a heart condition. Monster and Bang built this YouTube channel, and I am purely their vessel for inspiration. I know that that seems like a lot, but with these tools, there is very little that you won't be able to accomplish. The biggest piece of advice I can give you is to get your stream settings working in a way that you are decently happy with, and then do not touch them ever again. Every time I've tried to modify my stream or recording settings after I had it working fine, resulted in me messing something else up that I didn't realize until later. You can actually see this in a few videos where I had really bad bitrate settings or microphone settings as a result of messing with things that I just did not understand. For OBS, I'd recommend setting up individual scenes for anything you might need. I personally have way too many scenes, but you really only need like 3 or 4. One for gameplay, one for a pause screen, one for recording your desktop or web browser if you feel like you'd want that, and then one for a stream starting screen if you'd like that. It's important to remember that these settings are global, not individual to the different scenes. If you use a single game source, you cannot adjust the audio balance for that game source on one scene only without it affecting all of your scenes. I've had this mess me up too many times where I've changed the balance for one game which was louder and then I forgot to change it back when switching games back. I stream at a bitrate of 6,000 kbps. This is Twitch's upper limit without a partnership or special circumstance. I've read that they'll technically accept more, but it gets risky because going too high will result in them cutting you off and just refusing your stream video outright. 6,000 kbps is the best option for 1080p gameplay. Recording settings, on the other hand, are a bit trickier, and mine are certainly not optimized. It is optimal for storage space to use a variable bitrate, which you can't do without going into the advanced settings. I recorded a constant bitrate of 10,000 kbps, which I found yields a nice balance between quality and file size for myself. But this is definitely something you'll have to play around with on your own. A major rookie mistake I made was not originally recording with any compression. An uncompressed gameplay video does look beautiful, but on the other hand, an uncompressed 3-hour video I recorded ended up at 75 gigabytes, which, for reference, is insanely huge. After fixing up my settings, a similar length video comes to about 13 gigabytes, which is still a lot, but it's much better. YouTube will already compress your video no matter what you try to do to save their own storage space, so there's no sense in ever recording uncompressed video to upload. Also, YouTube will inherently give you a worse quality codec if you have less than 1,000 subs. It's not a malicious thing, and there are ways around it, but unless you're willing to record 4K video to do so, which you probably shouldn't be doing, it's really not worth it. If you're going to record gameplay and take one tip away from this video, let it be this. Record in MKV format for your own safety. If you're recording your video in MP4 and your recording corrupts, your OBS crashes, or your computer dies on you for some reason, you will be out of luck. The MP4 video will be corrupted and likely lost. Recording in MKV makes the footage savable, and even if programs like Premiere will not accept MKV files outright, this is where OBS's built-in Remuxer comes in handy. You can give it your MKV file and have it spit out the exact same video in an MP4 format, which can then be used for everything. Just make sure to clean up the space on your hard drive. My final tip for OBS is this: set up all of your audio tracks. Normally, your recorded videos will have just one audio track, which has everything all in one. But you can enable up to 6, which allows for so much more flexibility when editing. This is what I have on each of my tracks, and when you stream, only the first audio track will get sent to Twitch. I do record and stream at the same time, which is somewhat intensive on my computer, but it's really not as bad as you might think. Having different audio tracks can be especially helpful for rebalancing your audio in post, removing copyrighted music that you accidentally might have streamed, or even removing unfavorable dialogue from your video. Speaking of that, when it comes to editing your videos, the best piece of advice I can give is to just establish a workflow that works for you if you're working solo. For example, there are industry standards for what the label colors mean in Premiere, but I found it just so much easier to replace all the colors with distinct hues. I'm not handing my edits off to anyone else, so I color code my sections in the editor that I'm going to use for chapters when the videos move to YouTube. Speaking of, I highly recommend using YouTube's video chapters. If people start to lose interest, they're more likely to just skip ahead to another chapter than click off, which is great for keeping up viewer retention. Just remember that you have to start your chapters at 00, otherwise they won't work. It takes a couple of weeks of processing for your video chapter thumbnails to show up, and the thumbnails actually happen a few seconds after the initial timestamp, so don't worry too much about getting it perfect. That's how I was able to make cool chapter cards like these. When editing, the razor tool is what you will primarily use to cut and splice segments of your video. For my first few videos, I used almost exclusively the razor tool to do any edits, which worked, but I thought to myself, this cannot possibly be right. It seemed too barbaric to just sit there and click on every segment I wanted to make a cut on, and I was half right. The shortcut for making a cut where the playhead is at is Control K, which eliminates the need for like 3 extra clicks that you'd have to do when using the razor tool. This shortcut is your best friend. Other useful shortcuts include Control L, which speeds up the video playback up to about 200%. This will drastically improve your editing time since you can get through the boring content twice as fast to make cuts. Control J does the opposite, but I've never really had a time where I actively wanted to slow down my playback, since pausing the playback resets it to normal anyway. Control D applies your standard transition between clips. This is perfect for when you want to fade a bunch of clips at the same time. Control Shift D does the same thing for your standard audio transition. At first, I hated that they weren't bound to the same button, but it's actually way better to have them on separate buttons for flexibility. On the topic of audio, you should always fade the audio between your clips, but not the video. This is a technique they do a lot in movies where they'll let the audio come in before the video so that it subconsciously preps the viewer for this transition, while not overwhelming them all at once. It can also make your videos flow better and your transitions so much less abrupt. You should also always make sure your audio peaks at -1 decibels. This is something that took me a long time to learn, and as a result, a few of my earlier videos were actually super quiet. You can make this happen by pressing G on your highlighted track. This ensures that your videos are at a good volume without blowing out your viewers' eardrums. With one audio track, I always go to -1 decibels, but with multiple tracks I mentioned earlier, I typically use these values for each. This makes it so my own vocals are distinct and clear, and the game audio is not overpowering. Your mileage may vary depending on the game, though. Something I didn't learn until way too late was how to properly balance music in your videos. When adding background music, it is most efficient to add a simple parametric equalizer effect and center it on the peak of your own vocals. From here, you can lower the frequencies that are specifically within your own vocal range so that your voice and the music are not competing for space in those ranges. Take a listen to the differences that this makes in sound. Good evening, chat. Good evening, chat. Premiere offers a nice set of presets in its audio tab, which allows for some really cool effects by default. I always like to either apply a male boost to my voice or a podcast boost to make my vocals stand out more. This is also where you can add a noise gate, a de-esser to make your S sound stand out less, and some basic noise cancellation. It's always better to do this before you record your vocals, but this can save your video in the edit. These are especially helpful if you have a shitty microphone like I do. Just take a listen to the difference this makes. This is how my microphone sounds with no post-processing. This is how my microphone sounds with my OBS audio settings. And this is how my microphone sounds after it goes through Premiere's post-processing. Graphics are crucial in delivering a visually appealing video, and a lot of graphical solutions are surprisingly a lot dumber than they seem. When I was working on my scripted video, I wanted a nice scrolling subtle background like I love seeing on channels like Bro Alternative and Johnstone. I thought there was going to be some effect to loop a tileable image across the background and repeat, but no. Turns out the best way to do this is to just make one massive image and then zoom and pan across it. Just don't make it too huge like I did, or Premiere will actually crash during your export and you'll end up spending like an hour trying to figure out why. Some other brief graphical tips. When having text pop on the screen, you should always give it an outline. I prefer to do white text with a 20-point black outline. This technique will ensure that the text can be read on any color background, and it also keeps your personal style consistent. Use green screens. For the love of God, do not try to make a transparent video. Just use a green screen with the Ultra Key effect. I went through a lot of trouble to record a transparent video for a stupid bit, and it was not worth it at all. Unlike PNGs, videos inherently need a background for file size and compression reasons. If you can't use a green screen because something in your footage is green, use a blue screen. Don't use a red screen, they don't really work that well. This definitely applies to memes and edits, but it can also be used for specific gameplay type segments as well. Some games have mods for green screens, while others are nice and have them actually built in. Sometimes in my videos, you'll notice I cite where I got a clip from by briefly flashing the username of the original channel on screen. This style of pop-in graphic is called a lower third, and I use a free pack I got from IT Tech Official. These come as Mogurt files, which are plug and play in the sense that when you drop them into the proper folder in Premiere, you can use them easily on any project. I really like the way that these look, but my plan was always to make my own eventually, which I never got around to. Turns out After Effects is scary to work with. But I did manage to make this recreation of the Smash Ultimate direct transition all on my own with it. When you export from After Effects, you can make your own Mogurts too, which is awesome. That's what I used to change the text on all the transitions in this video. Let's talk a little more abstractly about the flow of a video now. The most important part of the video itself is the intro. Intros make or break your audience retention. You need a good hook in the first 5 or 10 seconds to get someone to stay clicked onto your video. Since short form content has brain rotten people so much, people will click off if they aren't drawn in immediately. Some of my intros that have done better are these ones.
It's time to play the game.
Holy shit.
Time to play the game.
The Eye of the Storm. Okay, wow.
Word.
Let's try Fleet. Let's learn what Fleet does. And some that have done worse are just these where I start by rambling to myself. So today, we're gonna try the void fields again. I know the title says no interest in the void fields, but I'm hoping that by, telling. So I'm thinking today, I've been thinking a little bit, which is never a good thing. But I'm thinking for purely gaming videos, I tend to start with a little conversation or one-liner from before the gameplay starts. Another good option is to start in media res, or in an exciting clip to hook the viewer before you pull back into a normal intro. One style I fall back on all the time as a default is to give a little introductory clip, then fade to music and a title card, and then fade back to when the gameplay is actually starting. This can be a good tool to get rid of uninteresting content, like this Lethal Company video I did, where nothing ever happened on the first day of the quota. Scripted content by default will draw in a better audience from its intro, but it's always a good idea to make sure that you provide a good introductory hook with your script to keep people watching. A quick sentence or two that gets the viewer to stay. When editing through a video, something that's very important is establishing the storyline. I did not want to just make slop content, so it was important for me to have every video have some kind of story to tell or some kind of goal in mind. Having an idea of the story of your video is important for knowing what to keep and what to cut. And it stops your videos from being a random clip show and actually having a watchable narrative. Most clips should inform that storyline, so to speak. You can leave in the slower moments if they set up jokes for later, and this is mostly important for establishing in-between moments that assist the flow of your video without making the viewer feel like they're just wasting their time. As I figured out more of what my style would be, I was able to more easily pick out what could and could not be cut, which ultimately reduced the time I spent editing. My first few videos, I would end up doing 4 or 5 passes over each one to trim down the fat, but now it's only ever 1 or 2. Some are even done in a single run through. Music is also very important for viewer retention. I don't add music behind my videos, so for games that do not have their own background music during gameplay, the silence during less eventful moments can really drag on people with short attention spans. In general, I believe this is a reason that videos from games with constantly active music perform better for me than those that do not. This is also why, if you notice, many other YouTubers add their own backing tracks behind the gameplay. My choice not to add any music except during certain montage sequences was a personal one, because of wanting to create an archive of the type of content when we streamed. So, while it may make for a more interesting video, I did not do it so as not to lose the original footage and vibe of our streams. I am not afraid to say that this was definitely a bad decision on my part. Even I think my content with background music is significantly better. End screens are super beneficial for your video, and they are something you should set up probably once and then never touch again. You don't really need to get too crazy with them. This is another key component of establishing your brand. End screens should not be longer than 20 seconds, since YouTube actually won't let you put an end screen element any earlier than 20 seconds till the end of the video. My end screens are 15 seconds long with some music, and they contain a link to my channel and a link to one other video or playlist. Typically, I have a video link set up to either my newest video or which one YouTube will automatically think is best for the viewer. I switch this up from time to time depending on how well I think the video might do and what kind of content I prefer to boost at the time. You can go back and change these whenever. I think it's more ideal to include 2 video links at the end, but I never felt like wanting to change this graphic after I had set it up. Generally, you want to have a song that you have the rights to use that informs the brand of your channel. I don't use one song for all of my videos, but instead I use a different song depending on what game I'm playing. Pulling from the game's soundtrack was my original idea for the end screen, but Lethal Company didn't really have much in-game music at the time of my first video, so I just chose a particularly creepy sounding track from Incompetech. When it came time to make Risk of Rain videos, I looked again at using the soundtrack from that game. The game's composer, Chris Christodoulou, has a very specific set of guidelines on what you can and cannot use his tracks for in videos. So, to err on the side of caution, I went with another particularly space-style track from Incompetech as well. These have become staples of my videos, and I can't really imagine ending a video without them too often. But sometimes you should mix it up. You don't always have to be so rigid in how you end your videos. It's okay to mix it up and have fun with it when the situation might call for it. If there's a particularly musical ending to your video or a notable memorable moment that you want to go out on, change it up and just keep the game audio. I've done this a few times for some endings that I think are pretty funny personally. Thumbnails might be the single most important part of a YouTube video, in my opinion. I feel like it can make or break whether someone clicks on a video. Look at the way YouTube is laid out on mobile. The thumbnails here are around 3 times larger than the space of the actual title on the home feed. When making your thumbnail, as a general rule of thumb, you do want to adhere to the basic principles of design and layout. Without getting too in-depth on that, think broadly about your thumbnail in 4 quadrants. You can combine these quadrants to make 2 or 3 sections instead, but generally you want to use this visual space for your appealing content while minimizing your white space. It can be easy to accidentally create visual clutter, which is why I typically stick to this general concept. You want to be aware of keeping the bottom right clear of important information, as this section will get covered up by the video's timestamp on YouTube. This timestamp can block important information, which has happened to me on a few occasions. A good thumbnail is bright, eye-catching, and not too overly detailed, since they can often be shown at a small size. Thumbnails are great for establishing your brand, as thumbnails with a consistent style or consistent elements will draw viewers back to your channel when they recognize it. I keep my thumbnails consistent based on the series that it's for, all in one Photoshop file so I can ensure that they stay consistent. My Lethal Company thumbnails feature 2 gameplay screenshots split down the middle, with the game logo up top and the episode number underneath. This was inspired by the first video I did, where the 2 scenes were intended to show a before and after of the opening moment. However, when it came time to make the thumbnail for the second video, I didn't really have any more good ideas, so I just simply reused the same template, and it stuck for all the rest of them. This can be tricky though, because the game can get pretty dark at times. Some thumbnails that looked really good on my bright computer screen looked incredibly murky when viewing them on my phone's feed. My Risk of Rain thumbnails have consistently done much better, and I'm much happier with these ones. These consist of 4 key components. A bright background screenshot of a stage that is important or relevant to the video. The game logo gets placed in the top left. For the DLC videos, I added a small DLC logo underneath. A character cut out on the right side with a drop shadow. The character I choose is usually relevant to the video, whether that's the character I play or a common enemy in some memorable moment. Finally, I add flavor text to the bottom left, brightly colored and always in the Bombardier font, which is the main font of Risk of Rain 2. This flavor text is always short and sweet, in all caps to draw in viewers with the premise of the video, unless the text is a full sentence. Then I used mixed case. Instead of using episode numbers for this series, I made the color of the text go in the order of the rainbow for the main series, from red to pink, and then rainbow, silver, and gold for the part where I actually beat the game. After that, I've really just been using whatever color text looks nice. I highly doubt anyone noticed this at all, but it was intentional. I've also made it a point to try to never repeat stages or characters in my thumbnails if I can help it. For the characters, I think it makes the episodes more distinct, but I will definitely run out of characters soon, and when I've had to reuse them, I've made sure to do it with a different in-game costume. The stages are just a personal challenge. Thank God the DLC came out because I was running out of base game stages. There are now 10 stages I haven't used in my thumbnails, but really it's 7. I do have a plan for what will happen after I run out of them, though. I get all of these screenshots myself in-game, and I use these mods on screen now to help with that. For other miscellaneous thumbnails, I really like the style of using character art on the right side, and then either the game's logo or flavor text on the left side. The one exception to this was when we played Content Warning, where I made the thumbnail reminiscent of the Lethal Company thumbnails because of the similarities between those games. About halfway through the year, YouTube opened up thumbnail A/B testing to me, which I found was super helpful in figuring out what people prefer. You can use this to test out dramatically different designs or even more minute details to fine-tune certain aspects of your thumbnails. You do need to get at least around 100 public views on your video for YouTube to give you your results back, which does make sense because the results that come back in percentages. Many times your test will finish without a conclusive result. This typically means that all of your thumbnail options were good or fine. When there's a significant result, YouTube will automatically set your thumbnail to the winning one. Otherwise, it'll just use whichever one you uploaded first. I learned a few key lessons from my thumbnail tests. Contrast is key. For this Risk of Rain video, the dark colors on the text and character body offered higher contrast against the lighter background. This made the thumbnail stick out more, as well as easier to understand at a smaller size. This was a blowout winner, with 62.7% of people preferring the brighter thumbnail. Don't reveal the answer to a question in your thumbnail. For this Risk of Rain video, the vague text, hardest achievement, won out over the thumbnail that specified what that achievement would be. Keeping it vague inspired people to click on the video to see what I considered to be the hardest achievement in question, rather than knowing the answer without clicking. If your title alludes to some kind of question, don't answer it in the thumbnail. Make the viewer click to find out. Even though YouTube gives you 3 slots for a thumbnail test, sometimes it's better to just do 2. 3 can make your results less clear and introduce bias, especially if you're trying to figure out the difference between a subtle change and a major one. Don't run them all in one test. You can rerun thumbnail tests later if you want to. You don't need the game's logo in your thumbnail. I've always included it in mine, but looking at thumbnails that come across my own feed, most of them opt not to, which I do think makes sense. Viewers who only watch one game on YouTube don't need to be reminded about what game they're watching. Use bright colors. You need to make sure that your thumbnail pops even at the smallest size. Avoid pure gameplay screenshots, as they don't tend to do so well in the algorithm unless they are stylized in some specific way. Avoid numbered episodes, since they drive away viewers. I can't remember how many times I've gotten a video in my feed that was a let's play of a game, but it said episode 3. Then I felt like I had to go back and watch from the beginning. You want your views now, so don't allude to the fact that there's homework that the viewer has to do before they can watch your video. Keep it simple and consistent. Consistency brings people back to your videos. And overall, when in doubt, just think about what you would click on. The algorithm is the big scary word that everyone wants to know all about, and I've learned a few key things about it this year. Like with any algorithm, consistency is key. I uploaded every Friday at 5 p.m. because that's when work lets out. I'm sure there are golden times to upload for more views, but really just pick a schedule and stick to it. When I had weeks that I wanted to upload more than once, I would upload on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. I did not upload consistently on Tuesdays, just whenever I felt like it. This is important for later. When it comes to consistency, that goes for more than just your upload schedule. It includes the kind of content that you make. Think about the YouTube channels you love. Generally, if they aren't review channels, they really just make one kind of content. The exceptions to this are the huge channels who have established their brand so much that people will watch them no matter what they post. For example, Ludwig viewers will watch anything that he posts. Same goes for other large channels like Smosh, Donkey, Markiplier, and Game Grumps. These channels have been around forever. That's no shade to these channels at all. I love them. But if you're just starting out on YouTube, just sticking to one content is probably best for growth. I'm stubborn and I didn't want to do this. I am a complex person with complex interests, and playing only one game for my whole life would burn me out so fast. So I learned this lesson the hard way. When I was uploading only one series for weeks in a row, that was when I was growing and attracting the most viewers. Specifically, this first run of Risk of Rain videos was some of my most consistent channel growth. Switching your content will tank your views. That's because YouTube finds an audience that enjoys your content and it pushes it to them. So for example, if I've been uploading Risk of Rain content for weeks and it's found its established audience, and the next week I upload Lethal Company, this new Lethal Company video will get pushed into the feeds of my Risk of Rain audience. YouTube doesn't have the means to keep a complex algorithm to understand the idiosyncrasies of every channel's upload schedule. So when the Risk of Rain people don't watch this Lethal Company video, that video just does bad and doesn't get pushed out anymore. If I continue uploading Lethal Company, it may find a new audience with time. But if I switch back, the same problem will happen again in the other direction. This happened to me with my scripted Rivals of Aether video. It popped off harder than any other video I've made this year, which established a space for me in the algorithm with Rivals of Aether viewers. Then, when I switched back for my end-of-year cleanup videos, they all did terribly because nobody who watched a video essay for Rivals of Aether is interested in an hour-long finale for a random series they didn't even watch. The exception to this, however, is when I would upload twice a week. Doing different content on Tuesdays and Fridays did not seem to have too many negative effects on my viewership. I didn't test this thoroughly enough, but in the examples where I uploaded different games on Tuesdays and Fridays, the viewership for both ended up being great. Some other things that everyone already knows, but I can briefly confirm, yes, on average, shorter videos do better. I personally found a sweet spot for viewership to come around the 20 to 30 minute mark, as anything more is a pretty huge commitment to watch. I didn't do too many videos that were less than 20 minutes, so I can't speak to that. But for gameplay, I'd call anywhere in the 20 to 25 minute range probably to be the sweet spot. Likes and comments definitely really do boost you in the algorithm, with comments actually seeming to help more. If you respond to people's comments, they may come back and either like your response or even answer again, which could lead to additional repeat watches of your videos. Videos where I directly reminded the viewer to like, comment, and subscribe truly did yield better reactions like that, especially if they happened early in the video or randomly in the middle. Waiting until the end of the video to give information like that is bad, and I was actually surprised to see how many people don't watch videos through to the end. I guess that makes me an outlier though, because I will almost always finish a video I started unless there's something truly wrong with it. Same goes for channel updates. Do those in the beginning. Something I've found is that viewership is really a snowball effect. YouTube won't waste its time cycling your videos to people again unless they get at least 2,000 views. Videos I've gotten with over this amount of views are consistently revisited and watched well after their release, but videos that don't get this are often dead in the water after that initial 2-week period following their release. This can be mitigated by finding other ways to relink to your videos, whether that's in end screens, pinning important playlists, posting your videos on other social media sites, or, once again, the dreaded YouTube Shorts. Posting your videos on social media is actually really interesting because as someone who doesn't have a social media following, I found that this is absolutely not worth it. I posted a few of my videos to Reddit or Twitter, and while I did get a few views from that way, it wasn't really anything worthwhile. Often they won't get picked up by other social media sites or even make it out of new on Reddit. But if you're going to do that, be sure to do more than just post your video and say, I made this, or something like that. Use your video to start a discussion. That's where I've had the best luck, but overall, it is not worth it and it's kind of embarrassing. YouTube Creator Studio actually gives you a lot of good analytics to look at on your videos. Everyone knows the classic demographic information and whether or not your viewers are subscribed, but you can see where all of your views come from and surprisingly where your videos are being shared outside of YouTube. Shoutouts to this one person who shared my video on MSN. In general, scripted content seems to do better, which YouTube will remind you of when they talk about making evergreen content. Additionally, the content that will show up during popular or common searches are better because they'll naturally reach more people. Naming your videos is important too. and eventually you'll let go of the guilt of clickbaiting and start to think it's funny, which it is. Do not include episode numbers in your video titles like I mentioned before, since they'll make people think they have to watch all the previous episodes as a prerequisite. A simple premise for your video title is best, whether that's a question or an intriguing vague hook that makes the viewer click to learn more. The best success for titles I've had has been for single sentence titles that include the name of the game in the sentence. For example, grinding out the hardest achievement in Risk of Rain 2, or how good are Rivals 2's new characters. Alluding to having a story to tell is also good, even if it's just a gameplay video. These titles give your video a sense of purpose, or maybe people just prefer that style. I don't really know. Some examples of that would be how Risk of Rain 2's secret boss fight broke me, or how I finally beat the Void Fields in Risk of Rain 2. I used to really like titling videos with the premise and then including a separator character followed by the game title. This does look pretty clean, but these videos don't do well. I tried this style with some Risk of Rain 2 videos to be sure, and they did worse on average. Stick to the first style of title I talked about for the best results. When it came to titling my other videos, I kind of just had fun with some of them. When I wasn't going for good SEO, I tried to name my videos more creative things. These videos were always more for me than they were for trying to attract new audiences. My Lethal Company videos were usually named more similarly to TV show episodes or something, or like chapters of a book rather than a good YouTube video title. This slightly extended to the Lethal Company with 100 Mods trilogy, where I named the first one for SEO, and then the other two were named as parodies of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. It's pretty on the nose, but I personally think it's funny, and I don't think anyone caught on to that. I even used the font from those books in the video for the third one. My content warning video had a title that was a parody of my first Lethal Company episode, which I thought was personally really funny, but again, another joke for me that I don't think anyone else would really have gotten. I thought it would be really funny in the future to keep doing that for any games with a striking similarity to Lethal Company as well. If I were to do it all again from scratch, here are the things that I would do differently. I'd stick to one kind of content and develop an upload schedule from there. Whether that's scripted content or gaming content, the channel should primarily focus on just one of them. If I had more time on my hands, I would ideally have two YouTube channels, one for longer form scripted content and one for VOD/gaming highlights. It's always been just me on this channel, so that's not feasible, but it would probably be ideal for growth. If I'm launching a new channel, I'd make sure to launch at least 3 videos on that channel so that viewers have something else to watch. Watching multiple videos in a row on the same channel is huge for growth. I would stick to uploading primarily one game series at a time. For example, I would upload Risk of Rain 2 content every Friday, and if I wanted to upload something else, I would do that on a different day of the week. I would make shorts for every video, at least twice a week. Every day was a lot, so 2 or 3 times a week might be ideal. These should be made in a video editor and rendered separately so the links work properly. In a perfect world, I would upload these to another short-form social media platform as well. I would dedicate one night a week to streaming. If I wanted to stream, say, every Thursday night, that would create more consistency and growth on Twitch, which would potentially draw in more people to the YouTube channel. My audiences on each are pretty different, but there is some overlap, and it would be really nice to solidify that. I would keep all videos between 15 to 25 minutes, even if they don't encapsulate an entire stream. This is a primary difference in vision, but I think that something like this would be better to maximize what I can get out of my content and for drawing in new audiences. My focus on the archival aspect was a bit of a limiting factor, and I can see a world where I move ahead and drop some of those personal limitations. I would do all of my thumbnails in the same style. Rather than having a different thumbnail style for each different series, I would prefer to do all of my thumbnails in the same style to achieve some sort of visual consistency. Finally, I would upgrade my hardware. I'm still doing a lot of work to make my videos sound decent, and it's still always a learning process. My goal with this project was not to spend a single dollar on this channel, so I'm still using a headset microphone. I do think my microphone is my weakest link in my hardware at this point, as it's probably pretty obvious to hear. If you've watched this far into the video, wow, thank you. You probably know me in real life, so thank you for putting yourself through this, and you really didn't have to. But secondly, if you watched this far, you're probably wondering, what is next? The answer to that is, I don't know. I've had a lot of fun running this YouTube channel this year, and the fact that I have a whole year's worth of memories with friends that I can look back on and enjoy whenever I want is kind of surreal. I'm really proud of the videos I've put out, both the good ones and the bad ones. Whether I want to continue doing this is up in the air, though. Uploading a 40-minute video every week was kind of taxing at times, and sometimes I almost didn't make it, like I had said. But limitation breeds innovation, and that's where some of my quick and snappy editing came from. It was very fun, and I may continue into next year. I have some ideas for some other series I'd like to do, like in January of this year when I promised my friend that I would play Bloodborne on stream, and then I bought the game and I still didn't start it yet. Sorry, Brian. I also think some more ranked gaming would be fun to do, like streaming some ranked climbs in different games, or just some more classic gaming with the boys. The sky really is the limit, but I think if I'm going to keep going, I'm either going to worry less about uploading every week, or maybe try to make some easier content rather than always condensing one full stream into a video every week. I'd love to do some more creative stuff too. This year I got really into modding video games, which was super fun, but it always ended up taking a backseat to this project. So maybe I could do some coding videos or something. That would be pretty fun. Or reviews. Reviews would be fun, or something chill like Rasputin's Games I Played In series. See guys, I have lots of ideas. On the other hand, I really liked doing that scripted video, and people seem to really like that one. The scripted content was fun and rewarding to make, but it also definitely took a lot more effort on my part. I do think it's the video I'm the most proud of, though, and I have some more ideas like it. I just don't want to get typecast into being the roster prediction guy. I was also never totally in love with some of my line reads for the scripted stuff, including this video, but I'm definitely not an actor, and while running this YouTube channel has totally gotten rid of that thing for me where you hate the sound of your own voice, it still does feel kind of cringe to hear myself read off of a script I wrote. In conclusion, running a YouTube channel for a year was a surprisingly valuable experience. I learned a lot about video editing, which I always wanted to get good at, as well as plenty of more technical details when it comes to streaming, recording, and audio balancing. I've never been a great public speaker, but being able to act goofy, present these videos, and talk about things I actually know about has helped me a lot with that. I truly believe that getting out there and making stuff like this has improved both my personal and professional confidence and presentation ability. This year, I gained 318 new subscribers on YouTube, and I received over 113,000 views total, which is a result I am overjoyed with. As for Twitch, I gained 22 new followers and streamed for almost 150 hours. With 60 videos produced across 57 streams, I'd consider this to be a success on my end. Here were my most viewed video and stream this year. I find this pretty interesting because there's a pretty big disparity across what does well on Twitch versus what does well on YouTube. In terms of which video and stream netted me the most new followers, that would be these two, which makes sense because I streamed a bunch of different categories for this one. If I had to give some closing thoughts, or just one piece of advice, it would be this. Make what you like to watch. This is kind of the catch-all for answering anything when it comes to YouTube. Make your videos and thumbnails in the style you enjoy watching, and ask yourself, would I watch this? It's not always about the views, and sometimes it's just about having a good time streaming with the boys and making memories you can all watch back. It's okay to mess up. The comments will definitely remind you of your mistakes, but in turn, that will boost your engagement. I fully expect this video to receive 5 total views, and 2 of them are going to be me, but that's okay, because this video is for me to cap off the channel in a way that I see fit. So this marks the end of the art installation that was the BlueBubbee YouTube channel, at least in its original run. It feels weird to call it an art project or a social experiment or anything like that, but it was fun and it was mine. If nothing else, this YouTube channel has actually made for a pretty rewarding year, and I'm happy to say that I have stuck with a New Year's resolution down to the very last day. If I die young, my kids will have these drunken streams of me quoting Bozo dubbed over to remember me by. So I guess that's something. Sincerely though, thank you for watching, if you watched any of my YouTube videos, and double thank you if you somehow managed to make it through this rambly mess of a video. I'm sure this video is insanely long, and I'm running out of time to edit it, so that's not going to help either. And triple thank you to my friends, who I could not have done any of this YouTube stuff without. BlueBubbee would not exist if not for our gracious sponsors, who are willing to record so many stupid videos with me. Thank you once more. Anyway, that's all from me, so I'll see you next time, unless I decide to stop doing this.